The first bomb went off, and 13 seconds, 12 seconds later, the second bomb went off right next to me, just feet away. And it took my right leg instantly through the knee and part of my left leg.
It's right on the
left.
All right, Marc Fucarile, we're back again. First off, I mean, how is your life different now than it was 11 years ago?
Just missing my right leg out of my left leg. Everything I do a little bit different with assisted devices. Just running with a different crowd. I'm helping the mobility impaired community. I'm involved in things that I wasn't involved with before losing my leg. I was always involved in charities and giving back with nonprofits. I was building my own off-street music opportunity for focused students to reach endless education through music. I was working with the Boys and Girls Club of America in Woburn, Massachusetts, to help provide a program for getting kids off the street and providing music, free recording studios and stuff. That's what I was doing prior. Now I'm mentoring kids with missing limbs and limb differences, kids with spinal cord injuries, kids with autism, through horse therapy, through hand cycling, through just adaptive camps. Visiting people in hospitals that just got newly amputated or suffered, a tragedy.
Okay, for those who don't know, the full details, what were the extent of your injuries?
On April 15, 2013, I was at the Boston Marathon supporting a veteran, a friend of mine who I went to high school with and worked with. He was a veteran, he's a Marine. And he was running that race that day, and me and a group of buddies went to support him, and the first bomb went off, and 13 seconds, 12 seconds later, the second bomb went off right next to me, just feet away. And it took my right leg instantly through the knee and part of my left leg, left me livid in shrapnel. I had a lengthy recovery. I was in Boston Mass General for 45 days. I was in Spalding rehab for 55 days. I was let out way too early. And then I did the remainder of that 2013 and then out of Boston hospitals with day surgeries. And the year of 2014, I spent traveling in the US looking for doctors and surgeons to try to fix my right leg and my left leg, make it more usable in the sense of getting a prosthetic on. And finally, in 2015, I got accepted to Walter Reed Medical Facility down in Bethesda, Maryland, the military hospital. And they reconstructed my right leg, which was my 5th reconstructive surgery in 3 years on my right leg. And then they also did a number of surgeries on my left leg, fixing some of the bone fragments and different stuff that was up with that. And then I was finally able to get a prosthetic leg, wear a special brace, really start living my life. And yeah, that was the extent of my issues. I got shrapnel in my heart. It actually took a ride up to the artery in the vein and lodged in my right atrium that they monitor now too. So yeah, I was 80% of my lower half of my body was burnt. I was pretty banged up, to say the least.
What's the harder part of that whole process? Is it the physical recovery part, the rehabilitation, or is it just the mental parts, having to do it over and over, day after day, year after year?
Nah, it's a combination. It's a combination of both. None of it's really easy. Navigating the system, understanding what's accessible, understanding that you'll have setbacks constantly as a person with a disability. Like, we're in and out of the hospital. We constantly have to be going to physical rehab to adjust our back, our shoulders, because you're compensating for the leg loss, your hip alignment, your gait. There's so much to take into consideration just physically once you lose a leg that a lot of people don't take into consideration until we get older, and it really starts affecting us. The mental, it's frustrating at times, when you're used to being able to do something, and then all of a sudden something that was so easy now became so difficult. But I find comfort in acceptance. I accept my situation. I don't worry about things that I can't control. I don't focus on those things that I can't change. I focus on what I can change and what I can do moving forward. And I figure out a way to do those things to make them a little bit easier, and that's what I focus on. So that's what kind of makes it easier for me. But the recovery is always difficult in so many different ways, and we all struggle differently.
Well, does every Boston Marathon now is it more emotional now? Is it more?
As far as the Boston Marathon, it now to me is a platform. I utilize that as a platform for me to participate. I've done the Boston Marathon 3 times. I've done 8 full marathons. I did 7 of them with Team Achilles, the Freedom Team. I did Boston twice with them, New York twice, LA, Detroit, and then the Marine Corps Marathon. I did 5 Disney half marathons with the Freedom Team, with Achilles. And then I've done numerous 5Ks, 10Ks on hand cycles, So the Boston Marathon now for me is a celebration of life, also a mourning of life. We lost 3 people that day and others since and after. So it's a tough day. I mean, it's tough, the Boston Marathon. There's so much positive came out of it, but that there was so much negative as well. I try to focus on the positive as much as I can. The generosity and the kindness of so many complete strangers that supported us survivors was amazing. It's amazing to see. It's amazing to witness. It's amazing to be a part of it. And that's what I choose to try to focus on. Sometimes, yes, we do go down the dark hole with the negativity and the evil that was there that day. And unfortunately, we're constantly reminded by his trial that continues to go on 11 years later. Which is, depressing in a reflection of how broke our system is, as far as our court systems and our federal government. So yeah, that's just a big part of it that does get aggravating. But I utilize the marathon as a platform to show people you can accomplish anything. And that's why I partake in the marathons, is for my son and for others, to show them that just don't give up, just keep going and figure out a way to be involved and do things and stay active. And I just love it. I love utilizing that platform to show people that, hey, get back up and keep going.
You said you were saved for a reason. What was that reason?
Yeah, I believe I was saved for a reason. I think I have a bigger purpose in life. Just by where my faith has brought me and the people that my faith has brought me around in my incident has really brought me around a lot of people of faith. And I normally wasn't a man of faith, but it's undeniable now by the people that surround me and support me. And, my incident led me to my now wife, Nicole Browder. She's an amazing woman. She was born with no arms and no legs. And I would never met her if this didn't happen to me. And I believe everything happens for a reason. And it also provides me a platform, right? That's why we're here today. I'm building the Marc Network, the Mobility Awareness Resource Community. It's a centralized location for everything mobility impaired. It's for people to share resources, to communicate and to engage with others that are facing the same challenges that they face on a daily basis. No matter what it is, it's autism, spinal cord injuries, amputation, MS, CP, stroke survivors, Parkinson's, whatever that affects your mobility or disability you or a loved one face, you can engage with others that are facing those same challenges. That's trying to provide those resources, because resources are very difficult to find. There's an amazing group of nonprofit organizations, companies out there that don't have the money to market, so people can't find them easily. So that's what we're creating in a mobile app. So it's mobile, it's a free app, it's a free download. It's an opportunity to engage with physical, occupational therapists, prosthetists, wheelchair providers, you name it, it's going to be available, and it's available there. There's inspirational videos, inspirational interviews about people that run marathons, climb mountains, hand cycle, just live life, and for caregivers also to engage with other caregivers to find solutions to problems that the people that they care for have, right? It's just an opportunity to help one another. It's a positive and a safe community.
What's your daily schedule like now, just to get all this off and rolling?
My daily schedule is wake up and work until you can't work no more and you have to go to sleep because nobody else is awake to work. I travel all over the U.S., constantly flying back and forth from Boston to Texas. I just drove out from Texas to LA for the Abilities Expo, and then drove back from LA to Texas to fly back to Boston, to drive to Connecticut to do Easter Sales, keynote speaking for Easter Sales, which is an amazing organization that helps people with disabilities. And then drove back to Boston, and now I'll be flying back to Texas. And we have more events coming up with the Abilities Expo. We'll be in New Jersey, we'll be in Florida, we'll be in Houston, we'll be in Dallas, Chicago, you name it. We're going to be at a whole group of events all over the U.S. bringing awareness. We were at the Super Bowl just in February. We were at the Super Bowl, bringing awareness to the mobility resource community, So yeah, we're all over. It's a busy schedule.
I did see that. I did see your interview with Pat Mcafee. How fun was that? That looked really
It
cool.
was an amazing opportunity that a buddy of mine, Dave Stevens, he was born with no legs, and he was like, played football, played baseball in college, just an amazing guy that does amazing things. He offered me an opportunity in a couple Radio Row passes to come down and be on Radio Row and partake and interview people and be there to be interviewed by other networks. And that's what we did. We went down there not knowing what to expect. And it was an amazing opportunity to bring awareness. And so many people like, oh, my dad, like so many football players, my dad's an amputee. Oh my God, like they all wanted to talk. And, Pat Mcafee and, me and him actually ran into each other in the bathroom. And we just started talking real quick. And then as we came out of the bathroom, he just kept asking me questions. He was so interested, like genuinely interested in what I had gone through and what I was doing. He was supposed to be back on set and he just kept talking. And I had to say, hey, they need you to go. We'll be here all day because I can talk forever. And he said, stand by that mic. I want to talk to you. And I thought I was going to be asking him a question about, his career and this and that and in football. And he just turned it around 360 on me. And I was not ready. But we had a great interview. We had a great conversation. He's, passionate about what I was doing and he loved it. So he just kept firing questions at me and trying to help bring awareness to the mobility awareness resource community, the Marc Network.
Would you still keep in contact with him or?
Really, we don't have any contact other than just that day. But, I'd love to connect with him again and really fill him in on what we're doing and see how we could partner and work together to bring this awareness. I mean, well, we're looking for, athletes, celebrities, businesses to sponsor, to be involved, to help bring promotions. It's going to take a village, to help one another. 300 to 500 scheduled limb amputations every day in the US alone on average. So that's 300 to 500 families that wake up not knowing where to get a prosthetic. A young girl from my hometown here where I'm living, she goes in Friday and she's going to be having her leg amputated due to cancer. Her mom works at the school my son goes to, my son's high school. It's just every day there's 300, 500 families and they don't know what's going to happen. Like they don't know what they're going to be able to do early in their recovery. Everybody I visit feels alone. They all feel alone. They feel like they're the only amputee in the world. They don't know what they're going to be able to do, how they're going to live life. But in reality is you live just a regular life, but if you never knew an amputee or seen it, you wouldn't know what to believe. But that's what the Marc Network is going to do. It's going to show people early in their recovery, change their negative thoughts into a positive thought to say, hey, I can ski. I monoski. I ski down Breckenridge, Colorado. I skied 5 years in a row with Disabled Sports USA, which is now Move United. I ski with Granite State Adaptive Sports in New Hampshire, King Pines. I skied with Maine Adaptive up in Maine, at Sunday River. So I ski, I hand cycle, I play sled hockey. And when you're first faced with those challenges or losing a leg or a limb, you don't know what you're able to do. And I didn't know what I was going to be able to do having a 5-year-old son. I wanted to be able to be a part of his life. I was his hockey coach before I lost my leg. And I didn't think I was ever going to be able to get back on the ice with him. And I was able to get back out on a sled hockey, like on a sled and play hockey and still coach him to skate as a 5-6-year-old boy. It was amazing. And I never thought that was possible until I got out there, and found those resources. And they're not easy to find. I was blessed with the media around my event. So people found me and told me about these events, but most people don't have that, opportunity like I had. So that's what I'm trying to provide, that opportunity for families to open up their phone and find those resources as they travel across the country that will make their vacations, their travels, and their moving easier, and quicker.
Now, if you had to guess, how many amputees do you think maybe don't even know that there is a place for adaptive sports? There are ski clubs, there are things like that they can do, or just give up on even looking for it because it's too, I guess, daunting, too overwhelming.
Yeah, a lot of these organizations they don't have their websites up properly to be searchable, right? I mean, it's just the truth. They're small. They're focused on the organization, the individuals that they're helping in their programming, along with their equipment. I've ran into families just at the airport, and they're like, "Hey, where do you get your prosthetics from? My son's been an amputee for 2 days, 2 years, and we're struggling here." And I'm like, "You play," and I asked them about sports, and they're like, "No." And I'm like, "Why not?" I don't know. And I'm like, "I play sled hockey," and the family was like, "Where do you play?" I'm like, "Everett." They're like, "We live in Everett." "Where do you play that?" And I'm like, "At the ice skating rink. That's in Everett. There's only one." And they're like, "Oh my God, like that's 2 blocks from our house. We didn't even realize he could be playing sled hockey." I'm like, "Yeah." They're like, "Wow, we didn't even know that." There's so many people. One of the mentors, a kid I mentor with at Camp No Limits, he lost his leg, and he was an athlete, an amazing athlete, football player, basketball player, and it took him 2 years to find wheelchair basketball. And now, he went to college in upstate New York on a scholarship to play wheelchair basketball. It was like, he's like, "I didn't even know that existed till 2 years later. I was at a gym and I ran into a guy coming in a wheelchair that asked me if I was playing. And I looked at him like he was crazy. Like I was just there to shoot hoops with my prosthetic and I can't move. I just stand still and shoot. So there's a lot of people that don't know where to go for those resources. A lot.
What's
Just
the
as amputees. There's spinal cord injuries. I mean, you could be a stroke survivor and have no use to your right arm, and you can still be in a sled and play sled hockey one-handed because someone can push you. You don't even know that. Like, your dad has a stroke, he can still get out there and play sled hockey. You got bad knees, you could still play sled hockey because you can't ice skate, but you can get in a sled and use your arms to push. There's so many opportunities that people just don't understand. You talked about Radio Row. A gentleman, I thought he had a prosthetic, but it was a little brace on his knee. And I was like, "Oh, I thought that was a prosthetic leg." He goes, "No, it's just my brace." And I said, "Oh, I'm a Boston Marathon bomber survivor." He goes, "Oh my God, I was a marathon runner for years." He's like, "I can't run no more because of my knee." I'm like, "You can still do marathons." He's like, "How?" And I'm like, "Hand cycle." He's like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah, I hand cycled 8 marathons." He goes, "I'm going to have to look into that. I didn't even know that was an option." I said, "Yeah." So a lot of people they're not aware. And that's what we're trying to do, bring awareness.
what's the biggest holdup right now? I mean, that seems like something that people should know right the day of.
It's funding. Funding. We need to do some hires. We need to pay people to do promotions and marketing. It's with everything. It comes with money, right? It comes with a team. We're building the team. We're trying to network for funding. But a big part of it is the community, right? The community needs to get behind stuff in each other and really support each other, because everybody in the community that I talk to think it's an amazing idea and an amazing opportunity, and they wish they had it when they first got diagnosed. You know, Early on in their recovery. I'm like, but you can still benefit from this later in your recovery to find all these new places as you travel. And I try to explain to them, imagine moving from Boston to California because you need medical treatment at a specialist out in California. Now you're in a wheelchair. All your community and all your devices and all your companies that you work with that you found over the years are now stuck in Boston. You have to go to California. Now you got to work on that whole community again of support. That's going to take a long time to find them. But if we have an acute community engagement platform, you could start planning all that before you get there, but also ask and engage with other people facing those same challenges, who they use and who's good and who's not good. Because unfortunately, there's a lot of places that are not good to use as far as physical therapy, occupational therapy. They're not great working with prosthetics because it's not what they work with. And when you move, you might want to move closer to a physical and occupational therapist that does work with amputees if you're an amputee, or that works with spinal cord injuries if you're a spinal cord injury. So it's the big struggle is the community. The community needs to get behind each other and support one another and engage with each other. And that's the only way we solve problems, is doing it together. So yeah, we just need to bring awareness, and that's what we're doing here with Muscle and Fitness. We're trying to bring awareness to the community, and I appreciate you guys helping us bring awareness to this and start highlighting some of our great athletes that are disabled and that are performing at such a high level. It's inspiring to able-bodied people, as well as people with disabilities, and for young kids to look up to these athletes and be like, I want to be that guy. If he can do it, I can do it, as a young child, and give them something to strive for. Because unfortunately, a lot of kids don't learn about sports until years and years later as they get older, and they could have been developing as a younger athlete, and they find out later in life. So then they're behind the eight ball to try to make it to the Paralympics or make it to a national playing team like sled hockey or wheelchair basketball or rugby or soccer. You know, there's so much opportunity out there, and we're just trying to really bring awareness. And like I said, I appreciate Muscle Fitness Magazine helping us do that.
How many sports do you participate in?
I do hand cycle marathons and 5Ks and half marathons. So I'm a hand cyclist. I am a mono skier. I ski in a mono ski. My wife with no arms and legs, she skis in an electronic bi-ski that she controls with. She has a little teeny foot on a short little leg that she can control, and it gives her 100% independence skiing down a mountain on a powered ski, and it's insane. So I am a mono skier. I'm a hand cyclist. I play sled hockey. I'm looking to get into the wheelchair football league now that they have. It's newer. It's, you know, it's only a few years now. It's been around for a few years. So I'm looking into that because I loved football, but it's my schedule. My schedule and focus is on Marc Network and helping others. So it limits my schedule. So it's hard for me to make a commitment to a team because you know how it is when you play sports. You commit to a team, you need to be there because they rely on you. And I'm not too reliable because the network and the community that I'm trying to help comes before my physical activity, unfortunately.
How many of these sports did you play before the amputation?
You know, I always, you know, played hoop and basketball with my buddies, but in high school, like I was a, you know, 3 seasoned athlete. You know, I played football, I played hockey, and I ran track. So I was, you know, I played three seasons in high school, all through high school. I also used to play soccer as a young child growing up. But yeah, those are my sports.
Well, who do you look at and say, wow, I can't believe he's doing what he's doing in his situation? Is there anybody that really comes to that inspires you?
Yeah, I mean, I've interviewed a few people that are on the Marc Network. You know, Brian Reynolds, he's an athlete, he's a double below the knee amputee. He was 4 years old, lost both legs to meningitis. I'm pretty sure it's bacterial meningitis. I can't. Everybody stories stop meshing after a while after talking to so many people. But he's doing a 7-peak summit. He's climbing the 7 tallest mountains on 7 continents. So he's an inspiration. Jack Wallace, he's a 2-time gold medalist sled hockey Paralympian. I think 3-time world champion. It's just, he's amazing. He's such an athlete. He's a beast. He puts in the time, dedication. David Eustace, 5 years old, was hit. He's from Stoneham. He was hit by a car by an amputee that was driving a car when he was coming out of school. Him, his mom, and his sister. He lost his leg and salvaged the other leg, and he found Camp No Limits, and he got introduced to hockey, and he loved it. And now he's a 1-time gold medal champion because he's younger than Jack, so he just made it this last Winter Olympics, and he's a world champion. You know, national world champion sled hockey player, as well as a gold medal Paralympian. So he's an inspiration. The kids that I mentored, and I used to mentor through Camp No Limits, those are the true inspirations. To see these little, you know, children running around and playing soccer with no legs, you know, or with prosthetics or without prosthetics, like just on their little stumpies running around, and just seeing them climb the rock wall and just see how amazing they are and how they do it. They're the real true inspiration. But there's a lot of inspiration out there, and that's what we're just trying to highlight.
Are there any misconceptions still about adaptive athletes that you're trying to dispel day by day through the Marc Network?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think if it's tough. I definitely see people look at adaptive athletes different, but a lot of my adaptive athlete friends can compete and stay and connect and, you know, keep up with able-bodied athletes. You know, there's Cedric King, there's Earl Gramble. He's another one. Both of those are 2 military guys. Just watching these guys do stuff, it's like the stereotype that they're not as strong. I mean, they are just as strong, if not stronger. And their dedication to training is above and beyond because they have to be. you know, they have to go above and beyond because they're facing so many challenges. And, you know, the work that they really put in is definitely not receiving the credit that it deserves.
How about access to gyms? Or gym equipment? Is it easily adaptable, easily functional for everyone?
I mean, for most of us, like we could utilize most regular equipment, right? I mean, we don't need everything adaptive, but some athletes do need stuff adaptive, and we figure it out as a community, and there's organizations that help. There's more and more adaptive gyms opening up across the U.S., and we want to recognize them. Like David Verora, he was a NFL football player, and he opened up an adaptive gym down in Dallas, Texas. And now there's a whole bunch of them opening up all across the US. And we're going to look to highlight all those gyms because they're doing amazing things for athletes that they run these camps to teach, you know, people with disabilities how to adapt. And they give them like a workout that they should follow to meet a goal, whatever that goal is. If it's climbing a mountain, if it's running a marathon, if it's hand cycling a marathon, whatever it is, they structure their training around that. And it's been amazing to watch and see these athletes go through these programs. And now, like adaptive equipment, there's starting to be a lot of things changing in the community because, you know, there's opportunity here. There's a lot of opportunity for corporations and businesses, and they're starting to see that. In the masses, the numbers of people faced with these challenges is big. It's big. The community is really, really large. And, you know, a lot of those communities starting to change the way people are, you know, viewing them. And it's a beautiful thing to see.
Well, back to you. I think you told me once before that you've run 8 marathons now. You said earlier. How many
Yeah,
did you run beforehand?
what's that?
How many did you run beforehand?
I would never even consider doing a marathon. So like I said, now I've hand cycled on a hand cycle 8 full marathons. And the reason I did it, my initial marathon was a gentleman named by the name of Bill McCabe. When I was in the hospital, I graduated with his youngest daughter. My sister and my brother went to school with his older kids. He lived in my hometown. He works in the hometown of where I grew up. And Bill McCabe asked if he could run a marathon for every day I was in the hospital and raise money for me. I said, yeah, I'd be honored. You know, older gentleman, right? Went out and ran 100 marathons in my honor, right? And I was like, oh, this is insane. This guy's crazy, you know? And I'm like, if he can do 100, I can do 1 to inspire and show my son that anything is possible, right? And so I did it. I did a marathon with him, and we did the Boston Marathon the same year together. And we ran I hand cycled the 5K that, you know, before the marathon with him. And then we went out, and of course I was with the adaptive team, so I had to go out ahead, and then he did it. So we did the marathon that same year together, but just not together. And that's what started my marathons, right? Like, and I saw the difference in my life, what it did to myself, just showing me as long as you don't quit, anything is possible. And I learned that about myself while I was just struggling doing this marathon, saying, oh my God, I can't believe I'm doing this 26 miles. I've only done 2 and I'm dying, but I didn't quit. I just kept going. And at the end, I was like, oh, that was it. You know, easy. Like that was easy, you know, and I was like, that's great. And I didn't train for my first marathon. I did 0 training. I'm not able to train because of a shoulder injury. So if I train, it'll destroy my shoulder, will be gone quicker. So I just jump on bikes. When I jump on a hand cycle, I literally get on that bike the day of the marathon, and I haven't been on that bike since the last marathon I did, which could have been a year, 2, 3, 4 years ago. And then I just do the marathon. And I just don't quit. I just don't stop.
So you were a natural athlete and you didn't even know it.
Yeah, I didn't. It's just mindset, you know. The mental is stronger than the physical. And I believe that, and I'm just a living example of it.
What was your wellness schedule like now? Do you train a lot, or do you hit the gym?
I don't do anything. So they say walking with a prosthetic, in my situation with a brace, it's like 70% more effort than you taking a step as an able-bodied person. So it's like for every 1 step you take, I take 70. That's what they say. But just pushing around on a wheelchair, crutching, walking with my prosthetics. I'm pretty active. I don't go to the gym right now. I don't train. That is something I'm getting back into, and I'm looking forward to getting back into. So yeah, with that being said, right now I'm on zero physical training, just living life. And being an amputee is a physical workout every day. So I am also on zero medication. You know, like they try to stick me on. I was on 86 pills a day when I got out of the hospital, and a lot of it was retaining a lot of water weight, and it was making me really swollen. You know, gabapentin, Lyrica, Neurontin. So I was advised by a doctor that I needed to get off the medication, all that medication. It was hurting me, and I found my pain level through my phantom pain and my other arthritis and other pain, that my levels, I did a self-evaluation. I rated myself while I was on all that medication. And I kept rating myself as I weaned off of the medications. And then now I rate myself, I'm at the same pain level as I was when I was on 86 pills a day. So, but I slimmed down, I lost all that swelling and all that water weight. And, and that's just my genetics. I've been blessed with a high metabolism. So I stay pretty active. That's my workout, is just staying active, getting up every day, getting out there and doing something, and that's how I stay in shape.
Have you had to change your diet in any way, or do you follow any type of diets?
I don't. I try to avoid as much sugar as I can, because and also a lot of salt, because it will fluctuate your leg, my stump, I call it, residual limb. But yeah, I try to stay away from salt, and I try to stay like a lot of salt, or adjusting different levels. Like I try to, but I eat like crap.
Does that affect the I guess the fitting of the prosthetic?
Yeah, it does. Yep, fluctuation in weight will. Yeah,
Is that something you have to think about, or because that seems like no one would even consider until it's too late, or until they
yeah. My socket's about, every time I have to change or adjust the socket and get a new socket, it's like $12,000 to $14,000. I went through 6 of them in 6 months just because of fluctuation. It took me 3.5 years to find the socket system that I am in. It's a double wall socket that I use. And it allows me to fluctuate a little bit more than like a regular suction socket. Because once you're in a suction socket, you can shrink and then you can add socks. But if you swell, you can't add socks and there's no room. You got to get a new socket. But then you can shrink back down, you know. So a double wall allows me some flexibility. So I've been blessed finding that socket, but it took me 3.5 years. I was in and out of prosthetic office making adjustments on a weekly, monthly basis. Now it's like I go in once a year if I'm lucky. Now that I found my fit, and I juggle my, my volume.
now does usage play a role in replacements?
What was it?
Does usage, I mean, if you're walking 20, 50, 100,000 miles, does that play a part in having do people
Yeah,
take
product.
do they take that into consideration at all, or that's
Yeah, I mean, I take in consideration, if I'm going to be walking a lot, I'll bring my wheelchair, bro. I'm not a I'm people have this like negative mindset when I'm not going to use a wheelchair. I'm not going to use crutches. I'm not going to use this. It's like, why? It's a tool. That's like a carpenter going to work without a hammer, right? I mean, it's a tool. I mean, if you're so proud, then get rid of your car, buy a nice pair of Nikes, and walk everywhere in the world, right? I mean, I use my wheelchair as needed, right? If I'm going to be up all day, because I can't weight bear on my left leg for too long. I mean, I can get 15 hours. I've been up for 18 hours on my leg walking, through expos and doing stuff. But it's like, why? I'm putting myself at risk for skin breakdown, infection, doing damage, messing up my hips, my gait, my spine. So I'm just a man that utilizes equipment properly, right? And I'm not too proud, I mean, so it's I do have to take in consideration my schedules. When I'm leaving the house today, I got to understand, like, what am I doing? What might pop up? What should I bring with me? Right? Because it's not too comfortable when you get out there and you're like, I should have brought my wheelchair, or I should have brought crutches just in case. But yeah, I mean, I walk a lot, products break down, things break, our feet break, knees break, your sockets, you can have socket issues. You could have like I said, just wearing your socket too long or not right, or it's not fitting right, and you wear it, you'll get skin breakdown. It can get infections, and then you're stuck in your wheelchair until you recover. It could be 2 months.
Was there a lot of fundraising needed then for equipment for athletes?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very expensive thing. I mean, just being disabled, my prosthetic leg is on average like 140 to 170,000 from my hip to my toe. And that's every few years, to replace. And like I said, that's to complete it, but then I might have to pay 10,000 or 14,000 for a socket that needs changing or broke. Then my foot might break, and then I need to replace that for 10 or 15,000. And the knee is 75,000, and then the pylon is 8,000, 10,000, and then the time going in to assemble it, and that gets expensive. My wheelchair that I use was $17,000, and I push it myself. I'm actually sitting in it right now. $17,000 wheelchair. My hand cycle was just like $7,500. I mean, how many bikes cost $7,500, right? I mean, being disabled is expensive, and insurance doesn't cover most of it. They don't cover most of anything, you know. So yeah, there's been a ton of fundraising. I was blessed with the Round the One Fund, and then people, complete strangers, family members, friends that supported me and that raised money. And we were, all us survivors are all trying to give back. Us marathon survivors. There was 17 amputees that day at the Boston Marathon, 265 injured, and we're all trying to give back in our own way. And, we all got different nonprofit organizations. I have the Remarkable Foundation now. We just got approved by the IRS in January. So we now have an official 501c3. And then I'm also giving back with the Marc Network, providing these resources in this app.
So anybody wants to learn more about Marc Network, what's the best way to do that?
So the best way to find out about the Marc Network would be through the Apple and Google store. It's Marc, M-A-R-C, Network. That's the name of the app. Search it, download it, create a profile. But you can also check out the website, www.MARCnetwork.world. So those are the two ways to find out. Find us on Instagram, Facebook. My personal, MarcFucarile.com is another website. You can find out some information about me.
The last question I do have is, when you hear someone tell you or tell someone, hey, I can't run 5 miles, or I'm sore today, I can't get to the gym, or I can't do anything, what do you tell them? Or what do you look at? How do you look at them? What do you tell them?
It's different for me. I don't like excuses. Everything's an excuse. You literally can do anything, and you're looking at a man that believes everybody can do anything. People like, no, I can't. No, you can. You just need to figure out a way to do it. If I wanted to go to the moon, I guarantee I could figure out a way to go to the moon. I have to. It'd be hard, but I believe I could figure it out. Get in the right programs, get with the right people. It's not going to be easy. Nothing's easy. Nothing good in life is easy. It's challenging, right? But if you don't stop, you'll get the results you want. And so when someone says they can't run 5 miles, I just look at them like, I don't know that word. I don't know what you mean you can't. No, you can. You're just choosing not to. Be honest with yourself. You're just choosing not to. You're giving up. And I don't think you should. I think you should do it. And figure out a way to do it. You might not like the time it takes you to do it, because that's sacrifice. It's what you're willing to sacrifice. You're willing to sacrifice a little pain and some time, or you're not, right? And you're just not willing to sacrifice. You're not willing to go that distance, So that's what I'd pretty much say to someone like that.
Well, have you worked with anybody that maybe had that attitude at first, and I can't do it, I don't want to do, I don't want to become an athlete, and you've just seen them progress into something really amazing?
Oh yeah, I mean, I see it all the time, and even my son. My son's guilty of saying, I can't do that. No, you can, you just don't want to. And then he does it, and I'm like, see, you can do it. And I love using those aha moments, like, see, no, you can do it. Now he's wrestling, now he's doing jujitsu. As a sophomore year, he decided, he's like, Dad, I want to wrestle. And I was like, okay, great. Like, why not? And he's like, yeah, my buddies do it, so I want to try it. We did it in gym class and I liked it. And he went in as a sophomore at his weight class. I think it's like 125, 135, and he was a varsity wrestler. He got his letter this year. It's like, it was a rough year. He suffered some injuries, and but he recovered, and it's a great opportunity and learning experience. And but yeah, I've worked with people that said, oh, I can't do that, I can't do that, and especially early on when I visit them in the hospital and they tell me they can't do stuff, and they're at their first week or two of physical therapy. And I had this one kid, Anthony, that his family asked me to come visit him after a motorcycle accident. He lost his below the knee, and I walked in above the knee and I said, hey, what's up, paper cut? And he's like, what? I'm like, you got a little scratch just missing your leg from the below the knee. I said, that's a baby, that's a scratch. And he's like, what? And this kid is like, wasn't really loving life at that point. He didn't think he was going to ever be able to get back to work or anything. Now the kid is a huge successful business owner, and builds houses and cul-de-sacs and communities. Like, he's doing great. Like, he didn't understand that he was going to be able to live life. And I showed him videos and pictures of me doing all the stuff that he wanted to do, which changed his attitude. And years later, I was at a car expo in Boston, and I hear my name being screamed, and here comes this kid running. And I'm like, who's this kid running? And he's like, Marc, it's Anthony. And I'm like, hey, what's up, buddy? And we started talking. He's like, dude, I just want to say, like, thank you, everything I'm doing. And now he's actually just had a baby. Like, so I think he has 2 kids now. Just had a second, and bought has a house, and he's owns a business. And it's just, but yeah, initially he didn't think he was going to ever be able to do anything. And now he's living the best life. So yeah, I've worked with a lot of those people, to be honest. I could probably tell you about 10, 15 more stories.
With that, how many people try to do it alone, do you think? And how
A
hard?
lot of people. A lot of people. And that's my I give advice to people when I go and visit them in the hospital early. It's find a community, find other people. So many people that are amputees or spinal, they don't want to hang out with other people with disabilities. It's like this weird thing. I don't understand it, but they kind of just want to try to be as normal as possible. The reality is you're not, right? You need that community, to somebody that can relate and maybe provide you with some tips, and make your life better and easier. So I said, yes, go live your normal life. Go be with your family, go be with your friends, go be with all the people that are able-bodied and, not like facing the same challenges as you. But you also need a community. You need to find somebody that is facing those same challenges that can relate to what you're going through, because you guys can help each other. So yeah, there's a lot of people that out there that just try to do it on their own. And one of them was that guy, Brian Reynolds, I talked about, that's doing the seven peaks in 7 continents, the 7 Summit Challenge. Took him 20 years of wearing and using the same prosthetic company that built his sockets. And he was having skin breakdown, infections, bruises, painful. And he just accepted it as normal because that's what he was told. And he didn't talk or engage with anybody that had the same challenges. He was in full able-bodied sports his whole life. He was running track against able-bodied kids, playing soccer, doing different sports and living a life with just able-bodied people. So he never had anybody to connect with. So for 20 years, he suffered in the sockets, that all he had to do was go find somebody in the community to talk to let, and then maybe he would have been told, like, that's not normal. I don't have that. Like, you need to find another company to work with, So yeah, there's a lot of people, unfortunately, out there doing it alone, and I don't recommend it. It's not easy.
Last question. That flag behind you, is that something special, or is that something you've got somewhere, or?
Yeah, a friend of mine, it's funny you ask. Yeah, through Team Achilles, that I got tied together with, there was a gentleman named Jeremy Fucarile. He was a volunteer. He volunteered for the veterans adaptive team for Achilles, the Freedom Team. And his daughter was actually born with a very rare heart disease. And she actually went through 4 or 5 surgeries within like the first few days of her life. And she's a miracle. And Jeremy does these American flags that he makes. And he just an amazing man. And him and Leo, they Leo's a police officer in Boston, and he was also another volunteer that volunteered his time with Achilles, and we met and we had, became really good friends. And he's like, "Hey man, I really want to make you a flag. I really want to make you a flag." And I said, "Yeah, thank you. I'd be honored. Appreciate it." So he came up, and him and Leo presented me with this wooden flag they made from scratch with their own hands. And yeah, I love it. I mean, I'm a strong patriot. I love what America stands for. I love men and women that serve in our military. I'm grateful and I'm thankful, and so I definitely hang that flag on my wall with pride, and from good friends.
Wow. Oh, that's wood?
That's wood. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Can't hear that. Wow, that's cool. That's super cool.
Yeah, a lot of time love went into that flag, and I'm just blessed to get one from them. And Jeremy, and I, honestly, he donated two of them. He made two of them on different occasions to help me give to the celebrity softball game, so they could auction and raffle them off to raise money for veterans nonprofits.
Mm.
And every time he gave me one, I'm like, I want to keep this, and I had to give it to the organization to raise money, and then finally, like, he made me one.
Finally, listen, he got the hint finally.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, so it's wood, and like I said, it's great. I'm just, like I said, I'm just thankful for all the support, and that's what I'm trying to really create is a platform for people to support one another, because I was blessed with so much support, and like that, like with Jeremy, like that's all support, like that's all love. Great guy. That's just what I'm trying to do, is support other people.